Part of the conversation on the things that matter to you. Toll free 1-800-563-7770. Call or text 403-974-8255. Danielle Smith on 770 CHQR.
Brought to you by the Popowich Carmeli Advisory Group, CIBC Wood Gundy.
All right, guys, you don't need any big intro from me because we have talked about this a lot, but we have two guests in studio today who are going to counter each other, because that's sometimes what happens is one brings up one issue and then the next one brings up another and they don't have time to challenge each other. Well, we're going to change that today. Jason Ribeiro, you will recognize, we've spoken with him many times before, organizer for Yes Calgary 2026, obviously representing the yes side. And then on the no side is William McBeath, who we have also spoken with several times before. He is with Save Calgary. Both of you, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Let me start with yes. So, Jason, give your best argument. Why is it that people should be voting yes in this vote for the 2026 Olympics?
Yeah, I've been asked that question a lot. What's the why? And for me, there are three. The first is that we are an Olympic city. That's something we should be incredibly proud of. It's an honor that's bestowed only on a few cities in the world. I think our games revitalized the Olympic movement, and we have a chance, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to do that again. I think under new conditions, sustainable conditions, I think we have to maintain that place as an Olympic city. The second is purely on the financials. You see the Chamber of Commerce of Calgary come out and support. You see Calgary Economic Development. You see Calgary Tourism. All of them believe that this will be a stimulus to our economy in challenging times. It'll be a job creator. It will position us for 30 to 40 years of growth. And the final thing is, I think that everyone needs to realize that they'll have a place in these games. This is going to be a very inclusive endeavor. I think not only just reaching into the suburbs of the downtown core, but also the far northeast, the south. This will be about accessibility. This will be for seniors who are experiencing social isolation to get out of the house, get active in these renewed facilities that are more accessible, volunteer with their friends. For kids who are inundated with screen time in the home, this will allow them to be more active, get outside the house. I think this is something truly that can be a catalyst for inclusivity. It's up to us in the community to really define what that means over 7 years. I want to take the chance with Calgarians that we are able to humbly make that happen over the next 7 years and present to the world a vision for Calgary for 2026 that actually sets up another 30 or 40 years of sustained growth in the city.
Okay, William, you've heard the yes side. Why vote no?
Well, I always feel a little bit like the gloomy Gus when we have this conversation, but unfortunately, this is an important decision. These Olympics are a choice, and that choice comes with risk, and that choice comes with cost. And for us, both the cost and the risk presented by these games just don't make sense for Calgary right now. We are going to be, only Calgary is going to be on the hook for cost overruns. Federal government came out and said they're not going to pay it. Provincial government came out and said they're not going to pay it. The IOC came out and said they're not going to pay it. So if these things go over budget, and it's an Olympics, we think they might, then it's Calgarians and Calgary voters and Calgary taxpayers who are going to be on the hook. Secondly, if we spend money on these games, that means we're not going to have the money to spend on other important projects for Calgary. That could include, delaying Green Line expansion beyond what we already have committed. It could mean no new NHL arena for Calgary, and it could mean delaying flood mitigation, which, according to all of the city reports I've read, is the single biggest priority for infrastructure. We could not get any of that depending on how these games go. So for us, it's too big a risk.
Okay, Jason, I think you need to respond to a couple of them in particular. Like, first, let's deal with the issue of only Calgary being on the hook for cost overruns. Why aren't you worried about that?
So let's parse that out. The first thing is that there is $1 billion of contingency. That is a historic amount of insurance against the games that will protect Calgary taxpayers from cost overruns that could occur. That is important for people to remember. We're not operating without a net here, and it was something that the federal government and the provincial government felt good enough to sign on. Secondly, in council chambers, it was revealed that the federal government and the provincial government have to sign basic security risks. And while I think that there's some confusion coming from the federal government's Department of Sport and Public Safety, it is absolutely clear, and I hope that they clear that up in the next couple of days, that City of Calgary would not be on the hook for security overruns. It's not within our mandate. It would make no sense. So anyone telling you that is misleading, but I can understand how they could, given that the federal government over the past couple weeks has not been very clear on their message. I do want to address something that William said on behalf of Save Calgary. I'm humored in a sense that they're all of a sudden worried about flood mitigation and affordable transit. I think we could look at their timeline and see I don't see any of this advocacy for this public spending or public works. What I see is a great deal of negativity, a great deal of division, and actually cutting a lot of the spending that's occurring. So all of a sudden, I find it a little bit humorous that he is now the biggest advocate for free and affordable public transit and flood mitigation. I would like to see where you've publicly stated your intentions to support that.
You need to respond to that, William, but also respond to the issue of why do you think that $1 billion contingency built into the bid is not enough?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's not $1 billion, is it? Because that insurance product that the Yes Committee came out with is not guaranteed. In fact, if you look at Chicago 2016 and Boston 2024, both cities who pursued or looked at pursuing insurance, they discovered some important things. One, that the insurance will not pay for every single cost overrun scenario. In fact, there's a lot of cases where that insurance will not pay out. Second of all, city administration not even certain we can get that insurance product. And that insurance product is one of the ways that Calgary 2026 is getting their full federal funding in order to make the books on this games even work at the barest scrape-through scenario.
You're conflating contingency with insurance. They're two different things.
Well, with respect, it's the last, according to Mary Moran, it's the last $200 million that gets paid out on the contingency.
So what about the rest of the $800 million that I just referenced?
Well, I looked that it's in the budget, but I also know that this budget got rejigged as recently as last week,
which is why it dropped from 1.2 billion to 1.
Just hang on one sec.
With numbers that are so complicated, even our own city council had trouble understanding them. And when I say this, 8 to 7 city councilors voted to end Calgary's bid at a meeting last week. That, to me, is a danger sign about pursuing this any further.
Okay, setting aside the $200 million that may or may not come in the form of insurance, there's the additional $800 million that Jason was talking about that is built into the budget. Why do you think that's not enough?
Because cost overruns on the Olympics are not small dollars. And we can talk about Tokyo. It was an $8 billion games, now costing $25 billion. We can talk about Rio that came in at $13 to $16 billion. These are huge numbers. So when I see a bare bones budget, a budget that barely scrapes through on the finances, I say that's not enough because we could be on the hook for billions of costs because only Calgary pays out.
Jason, can you comment on that? I mean, it does boggle the mind that we do see a doubling of costs. How do you defend that to those who are worried about, yeah, you're telling me today it's going to be $5.5 billion. I think we're going to wake up 10 years from now and it's going to be $11 billion. How do you counter that?
I think that, first of all, we have to, make clear that on the yes side, this is a big ask from the public. I don't want to overlook that this is an ask. This is a public trust that we're asking for. But I think this is a conservative bid. This is a conservative, thoughtful plan that actually only focuses on what we need to renew and what we need to build. This is a historic moment, I think, in the Olympic movement where we're seeing something really be in the city's favor and not so much in the International Olympic Committees. For folks that are concerned that this will get tacked on a number of projects that ramp up the bid, they've stated very clearly that that's not going to be the case. If there are related costs that come up, if there's a project like a new arena, like a connection to the airport, that is a community conversation we have to have, not something that's arbitrarily decided by the bid corporation. And if you're going to compare Tokyo or Russia or Rio to Calgary and say that the political climate is the same, the ability to push through mega projects like that is the same, I don't think that's rooted in evidence. This is going to be Calgary's games, and this is going to be done the Calgary way, and that is conservative. That is thoughtful. You can't have it both ways. You can't say there's not enough goodies in this for me, but then say that this is just scraping by. We have to have a balance, and I think they've achieved this balance with this. This is a credible plan to start with, and I don't see how you can just throw out other countries and other cities and say, well, that's inevitably going to happen in Calgary. A number of the things that happen in other countries don't necessarily happen in Calgary because we won't allow them to.
Why do you think it's inevitable?
Well, let's talk about our country then. Let's talk about Vancouver and the problem they had with their athletes' village. Now, this was a proposed development, which they said was going to be for affordable housing when the games were said and done. That's a major promise that Calgary 2026 has made, that this is going to provide affordable housing. Well, that city ended up taking up on a $700 million debt when the financing around their Olympic Village nearly collapsed. And what happened? Well, the first thing they did was kill most of their affordable housing in order to try and recoup costs. So that's not Tokyo. That's not Rio. That's just across the mountains here in Canada. And that was a major cost overrun. And again, on Vancouver, I'm looking at those security costs. And those security costs came in at $1 billion. And London came in at 1.6 billion. And Turin in Italy came in at 1.4. I find it hard to believe that Calgary's security is going to be half to a third of the cost of security we've seen in other places.
Jason, I want you to comment on both of those. First, how can we be sure, because I think there are some current concerns about the affordable housing piece. Is it really just going to be turned into high-end condos at the end, but is being sold as affordable housing? How can we ensure that doesn't happen here? And why should we trust the security figures that have been put forward that are half or less than half of what's been spent in other Olympics?
Both excellent questions. I think on the affordable housing front, it's important to note that we have a crisis in the city. We have a gap of 15,000 affordable housing units. And while the federal government has launched a very ambitious affordable housing campaign, not one dime has flown through our coffers for us to build units. I want to make this clear. The Games are not an affordable housing campaign. It is one of the benefits that come with hosting the Games. So I think it's very clear that the bid corporation has outlined that a number of these affordable housing units will be delineated up front to Indigenous peoples, to a seniors housing complex. Others will be converted to market rate, but there's definitely, and frontline responders that work in the nonprofit sector in the community said, we will welcome any thousands of units that come as part of this bid. So I think that there's enough there to go off on, remembering that this is not an affordable housing campaign. It is one of the benefits that comes with hosting. People are dying. This is something that if we can explore, we should. The second point on security, it's interesting to note that William seems to know more than the RCMP and Calgary Police Services. On no basis of fact, he is making the claim that the numbers should be higher or lower when it wasn't produced by any paper pusher. It was produced by our law enforcement. I happen to trust our law enforcement. In comparison to Vancouver, remember the time that we're talking about in Vancouver. It was a time of a global recession and a lot of economic anxiety. It was a time when we were involved in a war in Afghanistan. It was a time where the city itself had a marine entry that produced a very specific security risk. Calgary is a landlocked city. We are not in a war right now. And if those are the figures that our law enforcement actually presents to us, and if we see that there are advances in technology that allow for efficiencies to be made in the security process, remember, there have only been 2 incidents of violence ever in an Olympics, 1972 in Munich, which I'm sure you remember, and 1996 in Atlanta. There is risk every day in churches and in houses of worship, in the community. We cannot cower in fear. We need to take the precautions. We need to trust our law enforcement. That is what we're doing.
Okay, William, we get a chance to respond when we return. Stay with us on 770 CHQR.
In this dirty old part of the city where the sun refused to shine.
All right, welcome back. We're speaking with Jason Ribeiro, organizer for Yes Calgary 2026, and William McBeath with Save Calgary, who is on the no side of the debate. Now, William, I know you want to respond to what Jason was saying. We should just trust the RCMP. There's lots of reasons why the bid is going to be lower in our landlocked city. Do you buy those arguments?
Well, I think I should point out, I don't think I do know more than the RCMP when it comes to security costs. Jason may hold me in high regard in that, but let's be clear. My belief is they sincerely think that right now, as we speak, that will be the security cost. Just as organizers of London 2012 sincerely believed that the cost for security would be £282 million. And then it was 18 months out of the Games increased to £553 million because it's a risk. We don't know what's going to happen. And on a bare bones bid where they're scrimping in order to make the money work, that to me is a risk.
Okay, I've got 2 questions from Laura. One is, and we've been talking about it today, is the money to bring in Eddie the Eagle coming from taxpayers? Who's paying for him?
That is 100% false. This is an event that was privately funded that we were alerted to once the vote went through by Tyne Public, business partners Christian and Andy. They told us that they were willing to step up in this community, make sure that people get behind the bid. There are no taxpayer dollars actually going to this event, and there are no taxpayer dollars going to fund Yes Calgary 2026. We are a citizens volunteer group. Do not listen to anyone that tries to tell you any differently.
All right, where are you getting your money from, William?
We are funded by everyday grassroots Calgarians who are really concerned. They look at their property tax bill every year. It's gone up 50% in 8 years, and now they're worried it could go up even more.
Okay, Laura, also, second question. They never, ever directly address the cost overrun problem and who will be on the hook. It's why I'm voting no. I don't trust these people as far as my disabled 5-year-old can throw them. So she's got family issues she's concerned about. She's worried about her future tax burden, and she doesn't feel like you answered the question. Who deals with the cost overruns? Jason, you first.
On security, the federal government will deal with any sort of overruns that emerge. That is a clear. The federal government has to sign in the contract that they're responsible for that. In terms of building, and it's an important. Was it Lauren?
Laura.
Laura, it's an important question about who's on the hook. And I think the only thing that we can do is look at our project management within the city administration, but also just within the city in general. We build largely on budget and on time. You look at the beautiful central library that just opened, which was a $245 million infrastructure capital investment, on budget, under budget actually, and on time. We have an incredible track record of building in this city. We know how to do it. We're actually one of the world's best. So when we make comparisons to other cities, it actually does us ourselves a disservice. There's $1 billion of room in there to make sure that we're not going over. I think that, and John Furlong from the Vancouver Games actually came out publicly a few days ago and said, if this was my deal, if this is what I had and the insurance I had and the safety net I had, I would have said, thank you very much. I'm going to bring this to the people and we're good to go. A number of people that are stepping up, they're saying that they're assured by this, that the chamber is assured by this, by Calgary Economic Development, gives me assurance. And I think, Laura, it should give you assurance as well.
Okay, William, city record, Jason says, is stellar. So is that, does that ease your concerns about overruns?
I just got to talk about who's going to pay for things at the end of the day, because I have to say that may be Calgary 2026 and Calgary Yes Calgary Olympics opinion, but the Minister of Sport and Public Safety Canada were very clear on the weekend, and they said they are not paying for cost overruns. Rachel Notley and the NDP said they're not paying for cost overruns. The IOC said not one more dollar are they putting in towards these Olympics. So in my mind, if every other level of government and organization is saying no, that tells me it's Calgarians and only Calgarians who are going to be on the hook for cost overruns. In terms of our ability to build things, look, I think Calgary's a great city, and I know we built some great projects, but I also don't think that somehow we're immune to all of the issues that come up for an Olympics. And I'll give you a good example of why infrastructure sometimes runs so expensive. If you're building, say, a C-train expansion, and you think it's going to take 2 years, and then you discover there's an issue, there's something else you have to do, and now it's going to take 2 years and 3 months, or 2 years and 6 months. Well, you get to do that when it comes to a C-train expansion. You can't do that with an Olympics. If there's a problem, there's only one solution to fix that problem, and it's to pour money on it to get it done. Because you can't have an opening ceremonies if there's no venue finish for it. You can't have a downhill ski competition if they haven't finished building the venue. So that's why these things end up costing so much more, because you can't push the deadline back if there's a problem.
Okay, if you want to respond to that, Jason, you can. But to answer Susan's question as well, will our property taxes increase with the Olympics?
So first of all, to address Susan's question, and I'll get back to what William said, there is no evidence that any property taxes will increase, given the fact that the city is putting in the least amount of money of all the partners. The Fed is in for about $1.453 billion. The province is in for $700 million. The IOC is in for $700 million in cash. And you can look it up on the publicly available host contract on page 15. It shows you that the broadcast revenues are plug and play to whoever hosts in 2026. Calgary is in for $390 million. The field house, for example, is going to cost $320 million if we pay for that on our own. $70 million difference assures us that we get the games and the 30 and 40 years of legacy. On what William said around costs, I think it's important to note that I have yet to hear a vision for what the no side actually thinks is going to get Calgary out of this funk. What is going to prepare us for 30 to 40 years of growth? And again, with all of these historic institutions in Calgary, the Chamber, Calgary Economic Development, et cetera, not necessarily saying that they're worried about the cost, but saying that this is a really smart and prudent investment. Former Finance Minister Jim Dinning came out very strongly the other day saying, I look at dollars and cents, this is a good and credible deal for Calgary, and it's fleeting. So we need to take the chance on this opportunity right now.
All right, William, you get the last word on this. You got no vision for what you would do instead. So, and do you think taxes will go up? How about you answer both those questions?
Well, I can't imagine a scenario where taxes don't go up. Let's reiterate what the mayor said. And he said said money is so tight at the city right now that they're either going to have to cut essential services or raise taxes. So one way or another, we're getting taxes going up. And it is a bit of a shame, the timing on this, that it's come together so rushed, because the city's major economic update comes out the day after we vote on this plebiscite, which to me is the wrong way around. We should have a better financial picture before we vote. But when asked about what happens if this does go over budget, what happens if we're on the hook for billions and billions of dollars? Well, the city finance people said, look, it could mean a tax increase for property owners of 15 to 20% over 20 years in order to pay off billions of dollars in debt. I don't think it will be that bad because we have debt limits and other ceilings in place. But there are cities, I mean, I think we just paid off the Montreal Olympics like a week and a half ago because that went so far over budget. So to me, I can't see a scenario where we don't end up having a high property taxes.
Oh boy, we may have to do this
like
again.
Like in 1988.
I know Jason has to get off to an event today. It's happening at noon, TELUS Convention Center. Doors open 11:30, speeches at 12. Free to the public. Some of the names you got there?
So we got Eddie the Eagle, we got Donovan Bailey, we got Robin Regier from the Flames, we got Cassie Campbell-Pascal, and we have Paralympian Michelle Salt.
All right, thank you to both of you. That was Jason Ribeiro, organizer for Yes Calgary 2026, and William McBeath with Save Calgary. We'll be right back after news on 770 CHQR.